What's going on, guys? This is Guys at Magic. This time around it's going to be me, David, and Hunter bringing you the upgrade for the $300 Cabaretti Cacophony deck. So Hunter was given $300 to kind of throw at this up, or to throw at this Precon, and we're going to talk about what he's been able to do with that. So Hunter, do me a favor, go ahead and introduce just kind of the commander. That way we can touch over that again, and we'll dive in from there.
Yeah, so first off, this is Cabaretti Cacophony. The face commander is Kitt Kanto Mayhem Diva. She is feisty cat. She's a red, a green, and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Cat Bard Druid. It says when Kitt Kanto enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. And at the beginning of combat on each player's turn, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. When you do, target creature that player controls get +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Goad that creature. So essentially what our commander is really trying to do is, I'm going to be making tokens. I don't want you to touch me.
Sounds pretty solid. So we talked a little bit about her and your $100 Precon. Did you want to brush over anything about that before we start diving with the 300?
Yeah, so the 300 or the $100 upgrade that we did originally, I kind of just made it like, hey, here's some tokens, and these are some of the things that you can do. But now that I have the ability to use $300, I've really tuned this into a deck that I think is pretty powerful. I think it's a really good card, and you can do a lot of stuff with it.
Sounds pretty cool. I'm excited to play up against this. So let's go ahead. Let's talk a little bit about some of the new cards you're going to be throwing in here.
Yeah, so first off, let's talk about our additions. So these 3 we talked about in the $100 upgrades. I'm not going to go over all of these because if you want to know more about our additions, then you can go watch that $100 upgrade. So these couple of cards, they're from the 100 upgrade that I'm keeping in here. Halo Fountain, Ginny Fey, Jetmir II, and Rabble Rousing. Halo Fountain is the one where you can untap tapped creatures. That is perfect for our commander, and also has a separate win con for 5 white. You can untap 15 tapped creatures you control, and you just win the game outright. Pretty fantastic.
All right, sounds pretty solid there.
Ginny Fey, again, any tokens that you make, you can make 2/2 cats or 3/1 dogs. And Rabble Rousing, anytime you attack, you make that many tokens untapped. So if you swing in with your tap tokens, you're making a bunch of blockers.
All right, so without going into too much detail, then it looks like you've got a lot of other cards that you got included in the $100 list. So I'm assuming what we've done here is we've built off of that, right?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna go through these real quick. If you want to know more about these cards, go back to our $100 upgrade. So these next 3, Elspeth Sun's Champion, Tender Shoot Dryad, and Second Harvest. All 3 of these, they just create tokens again. And then we are also adding more token generators. That is Rise the Redeemed, Amara Soul of the Accord, Cemetery Protector. They all have different abilities to create tokens on their own. And then just a couple more token generators. We have Asika's Chariot, Avenger of Zendikar, Amiria Angel. Again, more cards that just create their own tokens. We also added a card draw package from the $100 list. That was Skullclamp, Welcoming Vampire, and Benny Brack's Zoologist. All 3 of these cards, very good when it comes to tokens and drawing cards.
All right, so those were some of the cards you included in the 100. From this point on, we're going to just be talking about some of the upgrades made in the $300 Precon. So Hunter, let's go ahead and start us off. It looks like you've added a little bit of ramp to this.
Yep, I added some mana dorks. So, like Birds of Paradise, Llanowar Elves, Avacyn's Pilgrim. All 3 of these cost 1 green mana, and they all tap to add a color. So, like Birds of Paradise, which is 1 green mana for a 0/1. It's got Flying, tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Llanowar Elves is a 1/1, you can tap to add a green. And Avacyn's Pilgrim is a 1/1, you could tap to add a white.
So some pretty solid little dorks that are in there. And I love the fact that we're including dorks in this deck. Not only can they tap for that mana to help us ramp up, but in the late game, whenever we don't really necessarily need that, we can always tap them down with the commander to be able to goad our opponent's things.
The synergy is so real.
So with us tapping a bunch of stuff down, we've got to have some means to make sure that we can at least like really abuse our ability or be able to have our creatures back on blocks. So talk to us a little bit about what you did with this deck and to fix those problems.
Our commander only targets one thing, so we could still get attacked with more than one thing. So untapping, again, really important. So Drum Bellower, Seedborn Muse, and Quest for Renewal, all going in this deck. Drum Bellower is the newer one from Neon Dynasty. It is 2 and a white for a 2/1 creature spirit. It has flying. It says untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step, which is perfect. Seedborn Muse, 3 and 2 green for a 2/4. Untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. And Quest for Renewal, 1 and a green for an enchantment. It says whenever a creature you control becomes tapped, you may put a quest counter on Quest for Renewal. And as long as there are 4 or more quest counters on Quest for Renewal, untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So Quest for Renewal, the synergy right there is so good.
Yeah, I feel like that would be very, very easy to turn on in a deck like this.
Yeah, we're forcing our stuff tapped. Makes those quest counters pretty much in one turn.
So sounds like we've got a lot of synergy whenever it comes to the tapping and untapping. What happens in the case that goes sideways and maybe we don't have any blockers left?
Well, we are a goat deck, as you can see by the commander. So I'm kind of adding more things that do the don't touch me, I'm scared. So the first one, these next 3, should I say? But the first one is Disrupt Decorum. Disrupt Decorum is 2 and 2 red for a sorcery. It just says goad all creatures you don't control. So that's every creature on the board. That's not yours. Geode Rager is 4 and 2 red for a 4/3 creature elemental. It's got first strike and landfall. Says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, goad each creature target player controls, which is fantastic. Hopefully you're hitting your land drops. And as just a little extra, Ghostly Prison, which is 2 and a white. For an enchantment, it says creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. That's just a little extra cushion of, hey, do you really want to attack me? Let's see if they do or not.
Sounds pretty solid. I really love the overall goad package here, especially since like hopefully the game plan is everybody's beating each other up while you're just kind of sitting back in the background, kind of laughing away at it.
Yeah, we just want to sit back, relax, watch the mayhem, and then figure out something down the road.
All right, so helping us out a little bit because I know that the commander herself doesn't actually do a whole lot of token generation. How are we going to get some more of those pieces in play?
Well, this is the big boy cards. Unfortunately, I could go ahead and throw in every token doubler and just say, that's $300. We're done. 4 cards. But I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to add 2. I'm adding Anointed Procession and Parallel Lives. Anointed Procession is 3 and a white. Enchantment, if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. Parallel Lives, 3 and a green. Enchantment, if an effect would put 1 or more tokens under the battlefield under your control, it puts twice that many of those tokens on the battlefield instead. Exact same card. So
Sounds pretty fantastic there.
yeah, those are expensive though. I'm not putting in Doubling Season. Doubling Season does the same thing, but the other stipulation on Doubling Season adds counters, and we're not a counter deck, so we don't need that. And it's $80 card, so
Understandable. That's why it doesn't make the cut here. So I'm curious, what happens to your deck in the case that you're playing up against an opponent that either doesn't really use a whole lot of creatures, like a spell slinger, or you're down to just one opponent left? How are you going to be able to finish them off?
So this last 4 cards you see on the screen here, this is my finish them package. So Jetmir, Nexus of Revels, the newest card from Streets of New Capenna. It is 1, a red, green, and white for a 5/4 legendary creature cat demon. It says creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. It also says creatures you control gain +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. And creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you control 9 or more creatures. So this first one, we are a go wide strategy. We have a lot of token makers, a lot of token doublers. So getting to this 9 is very easy to do, I'd say.
Yeah, I was actually really confused while you were working on this. I kept thinking that Jetmir actually was the commander for this deck.
He's
I don't
just the
know why.
leader. He is the leader of the Cabaretti, but he is not the leader of the Cabaretti deck.
At least he is on theme though, so we can still fit him inside the deck. Happy to have him in here. All right, so aside from Jetmir, what are some of the other goodies that you have to help finish opponents off?
Yeah, another enchantment I'm adding is Cathar's Crusade. Cathar's Crusade is 3 and 2 white for an enchantment. It says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So the amount of tokens we're making, those tokens are going to get very large very quickly. Another card we are adding is Perforos, God of the Forge. Perforos, God of the Forge is 3 and a red for a 6/5 legendary enchantment creature god as indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos isn't a creature. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. Also has another ability where you can pay 2 and a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 till end of turn. David, I know you love this card. And I
Oh, I
feel like
absolutely do.
it fits very nicely in this deck, making a lot of tokens.
I absolutely do love this card. I actually run this as one of my commanders.
And our final giant, hey, we're going to win the game this turn. This is Craterhoof Behemoth. Craterhoof Behemoth is 5 and 3 green for a 5/5 creature beast. It has haste. And whenever it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So Craterhoof is basically, you play this to win. You play this knowing you're winning this turn.
Yeah, there's nothing like slamming one of these down.
Yeah, all of our tokens just getting, let's say you have 9 tokens. Everything gets +9/+9 and trample. I think you
Don't
win by that point.
don't forget, Craterhoof actually counts himself too. So if you have 9 tokens, they get +10/+10.
That's right. Yeah, so he's doing over 100 damage when he comes in. Pretty solid.
All right, so those are some of the upgrades that we've talked about. It looks like you had a little bit of room left over to kind of improve the Precon land base. Talk to me about some of the cuts and some of the substitutions that you're making here.
Well, the additions of lands I'm adding. First one, Shatmir's Garden. Again, I said this in another Precon upgrade that we did. I hate that they don't just add the family lands into here already, but I get it. They want you to open packs. You said that last time.
Got to make that money.
I'm also adding all of the slow, quote, slow lands. That's Sundown Pass, Overgrown Farmland, and Rockfall Vale. That's the ones where you can tap for either color. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. They're solid. I'm also adding each of the 3 pathways. That's Branchloft Pathway, Needle Verge Pathway, Crag Crown Pathway. Those also, you can put them down for either side of their respective colors.
All right, so sounds pretty solid. Those are going to wrap it up as far as is going to be some of the additions. In order to make room for all of this, let's go through, talk about some of the cuts that we made room for this video.
So up on the screen right now, you will see all of the cuts I made from the $100 upgrade video. I am not going into why I'm cutting them. If you want to see why I'm cutting them, then go back to the $100 upgrade to see exactly why. They just don't fit in the deck. We will be cutting more cards, obviously, because we did add more cards. So we will get to those right now. So these first 3 I'm getting rid of. We're getting rid of Sakura Tribe Elder, which is 1 and a green for a 1/1 creature, Snake Shaman. It says sacrifice Sakura Tribe Elder, search your library for a basic land, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. We're getting rid of Wood Elves, which is 2 and a green for a 1/1. It says when Wood Elves enters the battlefield, search your library for a forest, put that card on the battlefield, and shuffle. We're getting rid of these 2 first. Because we are increasing our ramp package, and these kind of just do the one-off thing where our new creatures can tap multiple times. And we're getting rid of Indulge 2 Excess. The Indulge part costs 2 and a red. sorcery. It says whenever a creature you control attacks this turn, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token that's tapped and attacking. And the excess part, which is the aftermath part, meaning you can cast it from the graveyard, is 1 in red. It says create a treasure token for each creature you control that dealt combat damage to a player this turn. This one just doesn't really fit because we're not really wanting to swing in with our tokens right away. So this is kind of a dead card.
What are some of the other things we're going to be cutting, making room for?
Yeah, so the next 3, this is Zurzoth Chaos Rider. Zurzoth Chaos Rider is 2 in a red for a 2/3 legendary creature devil. It says whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn, if it's not their turn, you create a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And whenever 1 or more devils you control attack 1 or more players, you and those players each draw a card, then discard a card at random. No, I don't want to help my opponent cycle. It's just really weird, man. It's a really weird card. And you're not guaranteed to make a 1/1. So it just sits there and does nothing.
All right, what else do we got to get rid of?
Master of Ceremonies. Master of Ceremonies is one of those cards that I just don't like. It is 3 and a white for a 3/4 creature Rhino Druid. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chose money, you and that player create a treasure. For each player who chose friends, you and that player create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. And for each player who chooses secrets, you and that player draw a card. I'm not in the mindset of helping my opponent. We don't want to do that. Period. This other card we're getting rid of is Cabaretti Confluence. Cabaretti Confluence is 3, a red, green, and white for a sorcery. It says choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. You can create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. You can exile target artifact or enchantment. And creatures target player controls get +1/+1 and gain first strike till end of turn. So
Understandable.
this is a 6 mana sorcery where you can do things that don't last forever. Like the exile target artifact or enchantment is probably the best part of this card. But the other ones that makes the tokens that go away, and the 1/1 and trample just goes away at the end of turn. No thanks.
I was kind of disappointed by the Confluence cycle whenever it came to this set. I also removed the Riveteer one from that Precon, and I just kind of felt like it was odd that they don't really want to like actually ebb and flow with the overall design of the deck.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it fits. These next 3 I'm getting rid of. This first one, Killer Service. Killer Service is 2 and a green for an enchantment. It says when Killer Service enters the battlefield, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. Then at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 2 and sack a token. If you do, create a 4/4 Rhino creature token. We don't really care about food. I mean, the second part's cool, but we have better enchantments. So we're making room. We're also getting rid of Martial Coup. Martial Coup is X and 2 white for a sorcery. It says create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. If X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. While that's cool and it's making you tokens, if I wanted to make a lot, it's killing my commander and all my other stuff on the field, and I don't want that. We're also getting rid of Harmonize. Harmonize 2 and 2 green sorcery. Draw 3 cards. You saw our card draw package. We just don't need this one.
All right, a couple more cuts. What else is getting the axe?
Yeah, these are just going away. Shamanic Revelation. Shamanic Revelation is 3 and 2 green for a sorcery. It says draw a card for each creature you control. Also has a ability where you can gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. It's rare that we're going to have something with power 4 or greater. We don't really care about the life gain. And we have a card draw package. So this is an easy cut. This card is Crash the Party. Crash the Party is 5 and a green for an instant. It says create a tapped 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token for each tapped creature you control. I understand it's instant. You could do this on an end step. But I don't know. 6 mana seems a little high. And I don't know. We're adding better stuff. This was a tough cut. This last card is Camaraderie. Camaraderie is 4, a green and a white for a sorcery that states you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures you control. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Again, we don't care about the life gain, and we have a better card draw package, so we don't need to use this sorcery for 6 mana.
All right, so it sounds like maybe some hard cuts there towards the end. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the lands that you have taken out of the deck to replace the lands we put in earlier.
Yeah, so I'm getting rid of Naya Panorama, Myriad Landscape, Ash Barrens. All 3, they tap for colorless. Naya Panorama and Myriad Landscape, you go and find you a basic. But we want our colored mana more than a colorless mana. And Ash Barrens is just boring to me. I know it's got that basic land cycling, but our other ones are just better. We're also getting rid of all 3 of the thriving ones. That's Thriving Bluff, Thriving Grove, Thriving Heath. They come in tapped. They're a little slower. I know it can fix itself by choosing a different color, but the lands we added are just better. We're also just getting rid of a Wind Brisk Heights and a Castle Embereth. These 2 are just not very good in my opinion. Wind Brisk, it's got that hideaway ability, so you're forced to pitch something underneath it. And then Castle Embereth, it comes in tapped unless you control a mountain. And it's got that ability where you can pay 3 and tap this and give +1/+0 to all your creatures. And that's kind of doesn't matter at all. So we are getting rid of all these lands, and we are dropping our land total from 38 total down to 37.
So overall, this looks pretty solid. I'm very excited to play up against this. Hopefully, we can get some of those games up and loaded here soon. In the meantime, if you wouldn't mind, make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. We're going to be pushing out the $300 videos for the remaining precons as well. So those hopefully will be coming out within the next couple of days. Make sure that you follow us at Guys That Magic on Instagram and follow us on Twitter. And if you are curious about this deck, we also are going to have the Moxfield link. That way you can check out the entire deck list in the description down below. Make sure that you like, comment, and all that kind of good stuff down there too. We love to get some feedback from you. It gives us some pointers, some tips as to what it is you'd like to hear and ways that we can make this channel even better. Thank you so much. And this has been Guys That Magic.
Bye.